Hello homies, it's that time of year. If you guys watch the videos, you know I love throwing O-worm squirmerson and ace in Magic Raw throughout the summer because it kills it, dude. It's absolutely killer. But as with anything, you know, you gotta stay fresh. You gotta keep doing new things. So I got a little bait review, a little sneaky bait review we're gonna do. We're gonna go out and test this thing. We got two different versions. So I've had multiple guys on Facebook, on YouTube. They're like, bro, you gotta try the Geecrack. And what is the Geecrack? This is the Geecrack, the Bellows Gill. I think old Alton Jones Jr, whatever his name is, has been throwing this a whole bunch when you watch him on BPT and that. It's basically like a Mondo creature bait. I got two different kinds. I'm gonna show you this one and I'll show you the next one. It's a weird looking deal, dude. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm never surprised by baits and the way they look, but when I bought this thing, even though I knew exactly what it looked like, I was very surprised by the look. Got a bunch of ribs on it, reminds me of the old zipper worms a little bit, but it comes to a straight tail, looks a lot like the shape, that oval-esque shape of a little tiny brim, which is the perfect thing for this time of year because in my personal opinion, a lot of the bigger fish are eating brim this time of year, like those great big Mondos. That's what they do in Florida, and I think that's kind of what they do as summer kind of pushes on through on Guntersville as well. So I got the Geecrack, the Bellows Gill, and then I've been playing around with a lot of Raid stuff. Raid is a Japanese soft plastics company. So I got what is called the Hira Tailor, which is this guy. Same concept. What's slightly different with this one is it has, I guess what you'd call, if you guys remember the swim baits that used to have that sort of like swim tail on them, it wasn't like a kick tail. Both of these are in like standard plastisol plastics. They're pretty heavy. This guy has a little bit thicker ribs on it, but definitely what I noticed immediately getting them all in the package is they all like quiver and move and do all this funky stuff. But we're basically going to use this worm rig with 17-pound fluorocarbon, a little Halo 7-foot XD3 medium heavy, and go drag them around in the grass and kind of see how they behave, see if there's maybe some swimming action. So not only would I drag them, I swim, basically play around with them, figure them out, understand how they fish, and what's most important, see if they actually catch some fish. So hit that like and subscribe button. We're gonna go play around with the Geecrack Bellows and the Hira Tailor on beautiful Lake Guntersville. So sadly, we're gonna rip my worm off here. We're gonna start off with the Bellows Gill, the Geecrack one, just because it's the one I've heard the most about. Like I said, I have just a 3-aught. This is an O'Shaughnessy standard Texas rig hook. I have a 5/16 Hawk-Tech tungsten weight and a little bower stopper right there. And what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and Texas rig this thing. I'm assuming you just treat it normal. And then we'll go ahead and put it in the meat of the body right there. This hook should be enough to get through. And I like using a little bit slighter hook because I don't want it like super wide because we are dragging around and we'll end up dragging through some of the grass. But that's gonna be our setup right there. We're gonna go slang this maybe like 5 to 10 foot or so around some grass lines, around some little shell bars, and see what kind of reaction we can get. All right, let's see if this thing works. That was interesting. That was interesting. So that's my first fish on the Geecrack. And dude, I caught her reeling it in. I wonder if that thing like vibrates and like does all kinds of funky stuff when you reel it in and it kind of triggers them. Oh dear. Oh dear. That's, oh, he come off. How did he come off? Oh, that was a great big one. How did he come off? Wow, okay. I'll take some bites like that. Eat my offering. Eat my Geecrack. Sounds terrible. There she is. Oh dear, what have I done? Okay, that one ate it. Yeah, okay, so these things work. That's a good one. That right there is a 3.5, 4 pounder. So that one ate the Geecrack and ate it very meanly. Oh, very angry. That was like a June bug or like a plum looking one. I'm gonna throw that one back, re-rig this thing up. We're gonna get back in there. If we catch another one, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch over to the Raid and give that one a try and see if it makes any bit of a difference. Got you that time, big, big. Might be a spot. Yep. Catches all kinds and shapes, boys. Baby spot, but that's a good sign because a lot of times when the spots are eaten, I'm largemouth on far behind. Except, so once again, the problem, that joker ripped the bait in half. That's a pricey freaking 1.5 pound spot. Hope I got the hook in her good. That's another good one. That's another one on the Geecrack. I switched colors and I went to the green pumpkin. That's another 3.5 pounder, dude. And these fish have been like super hard to get to bite. The only problem is these baits get super tore up super quick. Yeah, we're gonna try the Raid. This thing's shredded. Yeah, they're a little pricey for how they hold up, but I guess that's the whole finesse-y doodle deal. Kind of excited to try the Raid. So the Geecrack actually kind of has a little wag and a little swim to it, but the Raid has, I guess you call it like a wagtail. I forget what that old swim bait is called that they used to throw a lot. People still do, but it has sort of that soft little wagtail, and these fish seem to be kind of reacting as you kind of like drag it, and I want it to kind of just have a little bit of kick to it. So this might be an interesting combination. There's definitely some darker kind of cool colors in the Raid as well, and it just has a different look. The fins, the ribs are different. Super soft once again though, but we'll see if it makes any difference or if they like one better than the other. The tail's kind of flapping a little, but the other thing that's happening is obviously we're on Guntersville, there's current, it's a river system, it's an impoundment, and I think what's kind of cool about this is it has those ribs, and I think the current in that, even when I'm not moving it, it's sort of like flexing and fluffing and doing stuff. That's one on the Raid. That's a good one too. Stay out of the motor, buddy. Oh, that's old Spotterson right there. Come on up to the front for me. Said he could be anything and he became a spotted bass. So we put on the Raid. It's another nice, that's a freaking 4 pounder, dude. They're biting it so light. That is an absolutely gorgeous fish though. Look how like spotted up he is. That is so cool.
I got a lot to say about these baits. It's a unique style of bait, and I really like that aspect of it. We're gonna start with the negatives first of all. One, it might have had something to do with the way I rigged it. I did put this on an O'Shaughnessy hook. I lost a couple trolls. And I'm thinking my little 4-aught, or I think it's either a 3-aught or a 4-aught O'Shaughnessy hook, basically that straight style hook, I don't think it has enough bite to actually be used with that. So I'm gonna go with a wide gap, like an Owner wide gap plus 4-aught or 3-aught, just a little bit more bite in that hook to really penetrate that bait. You're gonna have to kind of set the hook a little bit harder, but I think it does require it. A lot of times when you have ribbed style baits like these, it's tough to get through, and sometimes the hook will slide and catch the ribs versus actually going through. And if you have that wider gap or that wider bite to the hook, it definitely helps. Other negatives. So one thing that I did notice, at first I was thinking about like swimming these baits, almost like I do a swimming worm. These things spin, or at least I know the Raid spins quite a bit. So when you're reeling it, it's actually like spinning. So you'd either have to put a swivel on it, but frankly, I don't want that kind of spinning action. So the swimming thing is sort of out the door for me. The other thing too is I don't know if this is a negative, but it is a bigger, bulkier bait to throw. We threw the Hira Tailor is 3.7 inches. The Geecrack is 3.8 inches. So we kind of threw the mid-range. There's a bigger one available, and I believe there's a smaller one as well. It takes a little, it's a lot like a jig, I guess you could say, because it has all those appendages, all those ribs in that. It takes more weight to get it down. I threw it on a 5/16. That's usually kind of what I'll throw a stick bait on, a creature bait, in say 10 to 15, 8 to 12, 8 to 15, kind of that mid but slightly deeper range of water. I think I need to go up to a 3/8 or even maybe like a 7/16 or even a ½ ounce, because the fall is slow. At the same time, if you're flipping this thing, which is where I do see a lot of potential, just because of the sort of embedded action it has, and that's something we'll talk about in a second. It has a great fall to it, so if I'm flipping docks, flipping holes in the grass, things along those lines, that sort of undulation and that slow fall is a benefit. This is a bait that you pitch next to things, around things, or in holes. It's not something to punch because of its wide sort of build. And that's the other kind of little problem is we were fishing around some grass, and the wide profile on this thing gets hung and stuck in the grass quite a bit. It's not anybody's fault or anything. It's just because of the shape of the bait. It does not come through the grass, the eelgrass, the hydrilla, the milfoil, the way like a stick bait or maybe a compact creature or like a rage crawl would. When I'm not moving this bait, just based upon the fall and even just the current or the wind, it's causing this bait to kind of do a little shoulder lift, feel the beat. So it's vibrating and it's sort of undulating under the water and having this really kind of like lifelike, like, I don't know, appearance. It's almost like it's breathing, kind of like flaring back and forth. And that's what I thought's really cool, because I love dead sticking stuff and doing a little bit of a line shake, you know, keeping things in place, dragging it a couple inches forward, letting it sit, especially this time of year, summer. You know, I want something that moves, but sort of triggers those fish to come in while it's not moving. And that sort of embedded action is hugely important. So the other thing, and it's funny how the positive features are also the negative features. The way this thing looks is completely unique, and that's really the biggest like 5-star rating I can give it. I don't think these fish have seen it. The fish that I caught were actually on a community style kind of grassline ledge area. There's a pot of fish that just kind of move around in and out of the grass, and they're not easy to get to bite. I'll have to catch them with a hover rig. I'll have to catch them with a stick bait. I'll have to kind of dangle for them. You know, maybe every once in a while I can get them to react on that chatterbait mini, but they're not easy fish to catch. So I got bit, and I caught a couple like 3.5, 4 pounders, which are some solid fish. And so that indicates to me it's something they haven't seen. The other thing that I like, we're like midsummer right now. As we get into later summer, the forage focus for a lot of these fish, in my opinion, becomes brim, bluegill, things like that. And as that happens, this body shape is absolutely killer, because it looks exactly like a tiny, this is a really cool color too. It's kind of like a green pumpkin with I don't know, like an iridescent blue and albino blue, but it looks exactly like a bluegill or a brim, which is something totally like different from what they see. Nobody throws like a brim like imitator out here. You know, they might throw a glide bait or something like that, but something that truly has that profile of a brim in a soft plastic is absolutely rare. One of the biggest problems that I had with it, aside from not using the right size hook, was the fact that the hook would slip. This one's actually doing it. You can see the eye coming down. These are pricey plastics, and getting that hook, that keeper, to stay on that thing was a real struggle. You'd get like 2 or 3 bites, or you drag it near some grass and you get some pressure on the front of that thing, and it would start causing that bait to slip down. So either I need to use like a screw lock, I need to use some kind of hook with a more substantial keeper, nothing that'll tear up that nose of that bait, but something that has a little more grab to it and keeps that bait situated in the right position. So I'm getting the most value out of the bait, but I'm also keeping it rigged right. Because if I'm making a long like bomb cast with this and it's getting all fouled up before I even drag it, it's a waste of a cast. And if there's one thing that I've learned about fishing in 2024, it's all about efficiency. Like, you need to be quick but detail oriented and doing something different. Along with the ribbed, undulated kind of deal, especially on the Geecrack, the Hira Tailor has sort of like a wagtail or like a Huddleston style tail on it. You guys can see that. It's just like that modified boot that does a little wag. The Geecrack, even though it doesn't have any kind of swimming tail, This tail, because of the body motion, ends up doing this little kind of kicking whenever you drag it, not even when you're swimming it. So it actually has kind of a weird swimming motion, which I thought was super cool. Like it's kind of like wagging at the fish as you're slow dragging it in a super subtle way. But overall, they're unique. There's a lot of negatives with them, but there's also a lot of positives, and it's so different. One thing with Guntersville that I've learned is everything new starts on lakes like this, where there's tons of pressure, there's tons of anglers. Indiana, they come down from, Ohio, New York. Everybody comes to Guntersville, so it gets beat up with a lot of guys who have different perspectives and throw a lot of different baits. So if you can be doing something slightly different, presenting, a classic Texas rig in a slightly different way, throwing, the chatterbait mini, a downsized chatterbait, the same thing, but slightly different, it really gives you an edge above the competition, above everybody else who's out there. And you can fish some of the same spots and actually get more bites. And that's where I see the potential for this bait. It's a different presentation. It mimics those brim really well. I see a lot of potential for late summer. There's some shortfalls, but a lot of the shortfalls relate to rigging, how you have it set up. Hook size, weight size, things along those lines, and those are all solvable problems. Overall though, I dig it. I'm gonna buy some. It's not gonna be the first thing I throw when it comes to like a grass flat or when I'm dragging a Texas rig, but it definitely fits into my arsenal as something different, something alternative, and especially when they're keyed in on brim, something that I'll be picking up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll put links to everything, all the Geecrack, the Bellows shad, and then the Hira Tailor by Raid down in the description box for you guys to go check it out. They're expensive, but they're definitely unique. So if you got fish that focus on brim, if you're looking to do something slightly different, they probably are going to fit into your arsenal. If you guys got any comments or you've thrown these baits and have some cool tips to add, drop them down in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. I love new baits. I love playing with them, and you guys always have some interesting things to add other than the things that I pull away. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. We're gonna get on the road and head home, go see Swimsuit Girl. We'll see you back out on the water, hopefully throwing something new and catching some bass.